And welcome, Hoosier fans, to our 11th episode of a new show called the Hoosier Sound. I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am delighted to present you with this new podcast. We are an IU-centered podcast that focuses on IU sports such as basketball, football, and more from the point of view as a student or a young adult. To end each show, we will also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. Normally, we'll be going live every Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m., but if you miss us live, you can subscribe to our various networks so you can listen on your own time. We are now on iTunes or Apple Podcast, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and our live stream will now be posted on our YouTube page after each recording. All you got to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts and just hit subscribe. Click on that little box in the right-hand corner. The videos will then pop up for you when they're published. It's really simple, really easy, and it would mean a lot to us if you guys just hit that subscribe button for us. Social media is also big for us, and we post updates for you guys in Facebook and Twitter. Make sure to give us a like and a follow, as well as subscribe in our YouTube account. All the information is in the description below. You can also check out our website, thehoosiersound.wordpress.com, to find all of our information in one place. I apologize for the confusion about the show with Jared and the assembly call. It's definitely 100% still happening. Something just came up, and it's been really hard to reschedule and just find times that work best for everyone. But all right, Hoosier fans, it's time for some sports talk. This past weekend, the Hoosiers finally broke their losing streak and gave Tom Allen his first Big Ten victory as the Hoosiers head coach by defeating the Illinois Fighting Illini 24-14. Matt, why don't you give us a brief rundown of what happened this past Saturday in Urbana-Champaign, since you and the Marching 100 were actually at the game?
All right, well, I just want to say to the Marching Illini, they were fantastic hosts. Too bad that it was so cold outside that I felt like I was north of the wall in Game of Thrones, but that's besides the fact. I really enjoyed the game. We won an away game. Past 2 years, last two away games, we went to Michigan State and then we went to Ohio State, and of course we lost both of them. But of course we kept it close both times in classic IU basketball fashion. So I was really looking forward to maybe winning this game, and we did. And I think our defense played our best game so far. Definitely played the best game that I've seen them play. They got, I think, 3 turnovers, right? Did they get 3?
I think so, yeah. 3 interceptions, yeah. 2 for Fant, 1 for Tigre.
Yep, 3 turnovers, which was great. I think we almost created 2 other fumbles as well, which was awesome to see. Our defense is finally getting turnovers. And our offense didn't turn the ball over too much, and I think we only had 1 turnover. And Lego didn't make any stupid throws, which is like not a Richard Lego thing, right? Like every game you can go back and look at the tape and go, why did you make that throw? What did you see there? I don't think he made 1 throw. I think every throw he attempted, you could see where he was trying to throw it to, which is a positive sign.
If only.
Especially since I don't think that Ramsey's going to be back. I think for the rest of the year, I think they're going to hold him out. The way it's looking.
Yeah, I think so. And if only Lego's at least recent success were to come a little earlier instead of his last couple of games as a Hoosier.
Oh yeah, definitely. But we'll take it now better than never, right? So, yeah, I thought overall it was nice. I like Memorial Stadium, the other Memorial Stadium, because they both have an assembly hall and a Memorial Stadium as well.
I know that's another discussion for another time.
Yeah. Of course it is. But I thought it was very pretty. I liked the stadium. I thought it was cool. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Soldier Field and the Horseshoe at the same time. A little strange mixture. But the the atmosphere at IU football games was much better than the atmosphere at U of I games. Like, it was dead. Like, I'm talking dead silent for most of the game. I think the most noise was out of the loudspeakers when they play the gong to get them to rise to their feet. There was more noise from our band yelling than there was from the crowd. So.
Oh yeah, it was when I went to the Maryland game 2 or so years ago when Maryland was at one of its low seasons. They did not have a usual crowd, and it was the same kind of atmosphere. It really
so
shows.
Weird.
Yeah, it really shows
so
how a bad team, how the crowd can really just stay out of it, especially when, for Illinois at least, that was a winnable game for them. That was their last chance at a winnable game. But let's move on to the Hoosiers' final home game this season, which also means it's going to be senior night this Saturday. We got a noon kickoff against a Rutgers team that actually has 3 wins in conference play. So I'm going to give us, I'm going to give us a rundown of this game just a little bit. So they're not a good team despite winning 3 Big Ten games. Obviously, they've shown that they can win some games, still being 4-6, same record as us, but they're not that great of a team regardless. They've had 2 QBs basically play this year. The QB that has played the last 4 or so games, which I would think is playing this Saturday, is averaging 90 passing yards per game. Let me say that again. He's averaging 90 passing yards per game as a Big Ten quarterback. His last 5 games, he's thrown for a total of 89 yards, 87, 101, 107, and 43 yards. His last 5 games, he's thrown for only 450 yards. Only 2 instances where he barely went over 100 yards. And then last week against Penn State, he threw for 43 yards as a Big Ten quarterback. So take what you will. Hopefully the defense should have a field day because both Lego and Ramsey each have more passing yards than the Rutgers total passing yards with both of their QBs combined. Both their QBs only have 1,100 passing yards. Ramsey and Lego each have more than that. Also, they're not going to pass a lot because they attempt less than 20 passes a game, where Lego's at 40, 50 pass attempts per game. So, obviously, they're going to rush a little more. It's kind of like that Charleston Southern type of game we're going to see. Not a great quarterback, not a great passing game, but some running attack. But the running back, nothing too special. Okay, he gets some yards, but really nothing special at all. He's got about the total amount of yards this season as Ellison, so that's basically a good comparison.
So they don't have an offense is basically what you're trying to say.
Exactly. But they still put up over 20 points per game, so they on average. So we'll see where it goes. But overall, no, they don't put up a lot of offensive numbers. So obviously the defense has a chance to have a field day if the good side of IU defense shows up, kind of like a yin-yang thing type of thing. Just got to make sure it's the good IU defense, obviously, which is really going to set up the pass-heavy IU game for Lego to hopefully have a comfortable win in their last game, so IU can obviously stay on track for their 3rd consecutive bowl game appearance, which would be really cool. Oh, yeah. So we're going to go on to some IU basketball. We've started IU basketball, and despite some of the results of the first couple of games, basketball is here, folks. NBA is well into it. College basketball just started.
Yay.
We're here. So the Hoosiers specifically, they split their first 2 games of the season, losing first to Indiana State 90-69, and then beating Howard 86-77. So I'm going to start off the game with Indiana State, and then Matt will give you a quick rundown of Howard. So Indiana State, obviously we all know the result. Yes, it was bad, but first, I don't care how bad it was. I'm going to say something about the game itself. I don't like the booing that occurred during the game. It's Archie's very, very first game of his entire IU career. And yes, obviously, it was a very terrible loss. But remember, we have to temper our expectations, right? Obviously, we don't think that should happen, but things don't happen automatically overnight. Bad habits are hard to break, and new coaches and new offenses and new defenses, they all got to get used to each other and play under new roles, and it's really going to take some time. It was a bad loss, 100%. I'm not going to deny any of that, but booing him, really, guys? This is a guy that came in that we really loved, and we were cheering for him nonstop. You guys cheered for him literally before the game, the biggest standing ovation out of everyone when they announced players and stuff. And that's really how we're going to welcome our new coach to his first game. You think the recruits, more or less, are going to like to see that we boo our team after just one bad performance? No. As frustrating as it is, they're still going to need support, and we're going to need to give it to them regardless of what happens. This isn't a coach who's been here for 9 years, and it's not like we've seen games like this before. This is the very first time. Do you even see Archie's face at all during the game? He was absolutely livid the entire game, start to finish.
I want to vouch for Archie. Archie turned a different shade of red.
Yeah.
There's like red, and then there's like almost like devil red. Like, he was so mad. I thought there was gonna be horns gonna pop out of his head. I swear, he was stomping on the sidelines. Like, I thought the refs were gonna give him a tech for yelling at our players.
Yeah, that's not honestly an exaggeration at all. He was absolutely livid. You better bet that he's not going to let any of that slide when they're going to get to breakdown of the game yesterday and today in practice. So really, guys, booing a team, no matter how poorly they played, give them a break. Obviously, not everyone booed, but
yeah, I also feel like it wasn't. I don't think it was completely directed at Archie. It was more directed at the players, which I can understand, because we have seniors and juniors out on the floor that look like redshirt freshmen that were thrown in to play Kentucky on the road. Like, what were they doing?
No, it wasn't all directed at Archie, but still, that's what it's going to all be perceived at. It's the fans booing at their home team, no matter what. It's all a team and collective effort. If in December, if they're all doing the same things, then we can talk. Obviously, I don't like booing at your own team itself, but in December, after they've had a long time to do it, that's a completely different story. But enough of my rant, and I'm going to narrow it down to 5 reasons, the key reasons of why I think they lost. There are more, but I don't want this to go on way too long. Number 1, ISU played well. Give them credit where credit's due. They really did play well. They shot the ball better than, honestly, like any team should physically be able to shoot the ball, like 77% at one point from 3 points. That's ridiculous.
Okay,
I've never seen that before.
It was 77% from 3 when they took their starters out.
Yep.
And first off, they took their starters out, which is sad. But second off, 77% from 3. I don't think a team can shoot 77% from 3 in practice.
Right? I know. Yeah, just like casual shooting around with no one in their face.
I know. Some people can't even shoot 77% on free throws.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let alone 3-pointers. And they were 17 of 22 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Unbelievable. Honestly, everything they threw up, I think the tale of the entire ISU-IU game was summed up into one play where
we going out of bounds play.
Yes. Yeah. Ball starts to roll out of bounds. Robert goes to chase it, throws it, bounces off one of ISU's players' foot right into the guy's hands, and he falls into with like 3 seconds.
Falling backwards.
Yeah,
he's falling backwards.
Falling backwards into his own bench with 3 seconds on the shot clock, throws up a desperate 3 and just rolls around on the rim and goes in.
Yep. That's but actually, credit where credit is due. ISU really did play well, regardless of how good their overall team did. They played well. They might have played over their heads, but they did play well. Number 2, turnovers. Guys, after giving up 18 total turnovers in the first 2 exhibition games, we coughed up 19, and not just 19 turnovers, but 19 bad turnovers. And a lot of those led to buckets that ISU had that could have been prevented, honestly. Like, it might not have gone out to that much of a lead, and maybe it would have been a much more attainable comeback if some of those bad turnovers didn't lead into quick buckets for ISU. Number 3, rebounding. I talked about this last week, and that was when I talked about it when IU just came off of a 41 rebounding game with 16 offensive rebounds, and it might have been a little hard to see, but it's the rebounding that's starting to frustrate me a lot. Freddie, Justin, and Colin are literally the only ones to consistently rebound on the offensive end. Even like just after a shot goes up, literally after one of our shot goes up, every single person, except for those 3 more or less, starts to walk backwards, and it just frustrates me with that lack of effort. Like, it's a lack of effort on that rebounding. It's nothing more or less. It's when IU shoots the ball, sometimes even when Howard shoots the ball, everyone just starts to run back, and I don't understand with that part with the rebounding. So
I noticed that as well. I also feel like, well, we'll get to the game on Sunday, but and Jawan being out, but I feel like Jawan is a pretty good rebounder himself. So once we get him back and we get Colin healthy, I feel like there'll be more effort, because I feel like Jawan and Colin are both kind of the energy leaders on the team.
Oh yeah, which and then to my point, which obviously they're a loss that we'll get into, but those losses should still not prevent easy things, like just as simply as literally just trying to get the rebound. It's a difference between trying to get the rebound and not getting it versus just walking backwards and giving the opposing team that free rebound, basically. My 4th reason, Duran fouling early and having to sit a lot. He was looking really, really good and has been looking really, really good until he had to sit the last 8 minutes of the first half in foul trouble. Say what you want about how good the calls were that were called on him, but he was still in foul trouble, and it mattered. So it's not going to fly against Seton Hall. When they have their nationally ranked big man, he's going to have to find a way, regardless of if the refs are starting to call just soft fouls, he's going to have to find a way to make sure he doesn't get in foul trouble, because he's literally a game changer if he can stay not healthy, but if he can stay playing in the game. Too. Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, he is our best player, and there's no doubt he is our best player. At times, you can argue that maybe Devontae has spurts where he looks like the best player, but it's 100% Duran is our best player.
Oh, yeah. And lastly, leadership. Obviously, Colin's lack of presence on the court is again taking its toll. There are no seniors or upperclassmen that are stepping up to be a leader, and that really matters. When you get down, especially to a team like Indiana State, you're going to need a leader to step up, make plays, and lead a team who isn't playing well. Coupled with that, with the other team that's playing extremely well, you really need that person to just be that vocal leader. Archie, you got to get a leader out of these seniors, or honestly, just don't play them if they're not going to contribute to this team. Just sit them down. Some of these freshmen, obviously, in the Howard game were looking really good. Just sit them, have them start thinking about what they're actually doing on the court, and have them start to get to be a leader. Colin obviously is going to be that main leader, but he shouldn't be that much of a difference. Colin playing and Colin sitting should not be the basis of IU winning versus losing against a team like Indiana State. But overall, I'm not really worried just yet. I'm going to hold my judgment of this team, like I said, about until mid to late December, after they were able to play a lot of games and they're getting a lot more consistent with each other, and they're about to do basically the majority of the Big Ten season. So let's move on to a quick recap of the Howard game, Matt.
All right. Well, we won, what was it, 86-77, right? Won by 9 points.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the percentage that we shot on free throws?
I think it was, I want to say 59.
59% on the free throws.
Yeah, I'll check to make sure, but yeah, I think it's 59.
I'm pretty sure we shot over 20 free throws.
Yeah, we did. We were 7 for 24 at one point.
That is unbelievable. It's terrible. Like, you should make maybe 16, 17 out of 24. Not 7 out of 24. Or what was it?
7 for 24, yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
29% from free throws at one point.
Yep. that is absolutely garbage.
And that's not something that's like finding a new offense or finding a new defense with a new coach. That's the same thing on the same spot. The free throw line doesn't move from year to year, and yeah.
This team has no confidence, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
came in, I don't think they were ready for the season to start.
Oh,
We play ISU.
IU was 12 for 29 at the end with 41.4%.
I don't know what to say. There's no way we don't lose by 70 to Duke if we play like this, right? Like something's got to change. There's got to be some leadership. There's got to be somebody has to do something. Like there's nothing going on right now.
Especially
it's frustrating.
Especially if we get in the bonus with 10 minutes left and a half, that's where you capitalize on that.
Right? If we make 10 more of those free throws, if we make 5 more before halftime, which is reasonable because I think we missed our first 7 free throws, right?
I think 5. It was 6 or 7, before we made our first one.
Yeah. Which I visibly remember telling Duran or yelling from the stands, "You got this, Duran." And Duran responded, "Heck yeah, I do." Well, that wasn't his exact words, but you get what I mean.
Making 2 free throws in a row was saying that, yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah, I do. No, he said it back, and then he made his 2 free throws in a row. They just need somebody to pump them up. I don't know what it is. And they need Thomas back on the floor with his constant energy. They need Colin. I think Colin is the piece of this team. And I said it last year about last year's team. Colin was the piece that they missed all year because was totally experienced, especially from his freshman year and sophomore year. Obviously, went in the Big Ten, whatever. But when he's on the floor, he talks constantly. When I'm watching the game, I see Josh Newkirk talk, but it's Josh, right? Like as much as I love Josh is not the greatest point guard ever to exist at IU. And then you have I don't see Rob ever talk. Rob doesn't talk on the court.
Mm-mm.
Rob just runs around in circles and then catches the ball or tries to catch the ball and then doesn't shoot. Like, Rob, I love you. Talk, communicate. Half of our problems on defense, I was just watching the Archie Miller press conference about the Howard game. Half our problems on defense are just people talking. If you talk, we don't leave people open for 3. We don't leave open for 3. 10 of those shots don't go in, and they don't make 17 of 24. They make 7 of 24, which is still a pretty decent percentage from 3.
Which it's not like
right. 30% from 3 is pretty decent.
Yeah, and we were talking about before during the exhibition games how the opposing team shooting the 3 is good for the pack line defense. That means it's working. But in the case of Indiana State, they were leaving people open, and they weren't switching fast enough and all that stuff. So it wasn't the fact that the pack line defense was working incredibly. It was poor defense as well.
The other thing that I noticed from the Howard game that's very concerning is that Howard guards were taking our guys one-on-one and making them look like high schoolers. Then you take them one-on-one, take them off the dribble, step back, and the guy's got a wide-open 3.
Tiny Howard point guards.
Yes. How does that happen? We are about to go up against Trayvon Duval next week. We're about to go up against some great guards tomorrow in Seton Hall in New Jersey. We're going to go up against Trayvon Duval, and Grayson Allen just put up 37 on Michigan State. How do you think they're going to do against us? We can't even stay in front of Howard, right? Like, I'm honestly scared. Like, something has to change. We got to, as much as I like the pack line, right? I don't think it's early enough to throw it out the window. But if it's not working at the start of the Duke game, let's switch to zone. Let's switch to something else so that these guys can at least have a chance of staying with their guys. I don't know. I'm really concerned. I don't think it's not too early to hit the panic button, but I think we should
No.
give it some time first.
Mhm.
Um,
Let Archie. We loved Archie coming in. There's no reason to change our entire view on him after just 2 games, so we'll give him some time.
right. Let's see
But
let's see what happens when everybody's healthy. Right. Well,
mhm,
let's see when we get him back on the court. Let's give him some time to get used to the system. I was talking to a lady after the women's basketball game tonight, and she was like, "Oh, we didn't look good, against." I was like, "Just give him some time, right?
mhm,
Like when you first go into school or you first go into work, right? And it's a new workplace or it's a new class. Like you take some time. It's slow. It's like you got to get used to how things work. I feel like yeah, playing against the same people in practice is great, but getting some game time, getting some actual reps in against some good people, especially against Seton Hall tomorrow,
it's gonna really
will
help.
definitely tell how this team will play. And I feel like they'll improve as the season goes on.
The only
Hopefully.
scary part is, do you want to guess how long Grayson Allen and Duval played for Duke tonight? Do you want to guess how many minutes they were in?
Well, it's not much of a guess because I watched the game, but
Mhm.
I know they played 40 minutes apiece.
Duval was 37, but then Grayson Allen played the entire game, did not sit, which obviously we're going to have backups that are going to have to step up as well, and not just the starters to play some defense. But we'll get to that when Duke comes around. So we are going to move on. We're just under 3 weeks and 3 games, including the conference title games, to finding out who's going to make it to the big dance and who else is going to be on the outside looking in for the college football playoffs. Obviously, this is not necessarily IU related because we know where IU stands with their football record. But this week, we're going to go off script a little bit and just talk about the rankings with you guys. We're going to get you to use what we've seen from some teams, who's in, who's out, what we might see in the last 3 weeks as the playoff picture is becoming much, much clearer with only a few games left. So let's start with the latest rankings that were still announced, which literally happened less than an hour ago if you guys were not seeing. So for me personally, in contention still, I think Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, Clemson, Wisconsin, Auburn, Georgia are still in with Ohio State, Oklahoma State, and TCU not officially out, but they're on the outside looking in and going to need a lot of help to get in. But the top 10 rankings for this week are number 10, Penn State, number 9, Ohio State, 8, Notre Dame, 7, Georgia, 6, Auburn, 5, Wisconsin, 4, Oklahoma, 3, Miami, 2, Clemson, and 1, Alabama. Some of the teams that I personally have that were recently in contention, like this past week, but just got eliminated after their weekend woes were Notre Dame, Penn State, Washington, Virginia Tech, NC State, Stanford, and UCF. Obviously not losing yet. Still one of the very few undefeated teams, but just having some of these top teams, I think their schedule is not going to be good enough to get in. But Matt, what are your opening thoughts after seeing these top 10 rankings less than an hour ago?
I think the Big Ten is on the outside looking in, obviously.
But I think Wisconsin they hold the keys to their playoff hopes future.
Yes, I think so. I don't think Wisconsin's that good, and I think they have a very tough test this weekend against Michigan, and we'll actually see their true colors against a team that doesn't have a starting point guard, but I think is still better than Wisconsin.
Starting point guard?
All right, starting quarterback, the point guard of the offense. That's what I meant. Yes. I'm still on basketball, but they don't have a starting quarterback. Spate's out.
Still, obviously.
But Wisconsin's not our hope. They're going to lose to Ohio State when they play Ohio State because it's Ohio State, and they don't lose in the Big Ten championship game. And then let's see. I thought Oklahoma got gypped.
Really?
I think Oklahoma. Yeah, I thought Oklahoma deserved to be number 2. I think a team that has two road wins against top 13 teams and a home win against TCU, which you can't blame the defense for not playing well against an obviously offensive juggernaut that is TCU. Look at what the Oklahoma defense did against Ohio State, and look what Ohio State's done to Big Ten teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma's defense is not as bad as people make it out to be. Oklahoma State and TCU have fantastic offenses, and you will see that in the bowl games where TCU and Oklahoma State will go up against teams and they will light them up. Just because the Big 12 is very offensive focused. I think that recently that's how it's been. I think that's to their detriment because people think, oh, the defenses aren't that good. This Oklahoma defense is very good. It's just they've been going up against fantastic offenses, and they're going to shred them, especially when Oklahoma takes about a minute to go down the field to score, and then the other team goes right down the field for another minute and scores, and the defense is going to get tired. Both defenses are going to get tired in an offensive game. So, I think Oklahoma's better than how they've played the past couple of weeks, but they've played some very good teams, and they tried and they went out of their way to play a fantastic team on the road in non-conference. So I thought they deserved to be number 2. I thought it was weird how Clemson jumped Miami.
I was about to say, I think Clemson is ranked way too high for all of these. They're just comparing even losses. Clemson's one loss to Syracuse versus Oklahoma's one loss to Iowa State are two completely different losses. Obviously Oklahoma's played really good teams, and Clemson's also beaten some good teams, but you still can't take away losing to Syracuse as one of your losses, and then still being put as the number 2 team, especially coming right under Miami, who just is still undefeated, still hasn't lost yet, and just gave a beating to Notre Dame, a really good Notre Dame team. I think Clemson should be at least 3, if not 4.
But I mean, if we're looking at results, right? You look at Georgia. Georgia got destroyed by Auburn this weekend. Notre Dame barely lost to Georgia. And Miami totally destroyed Notre Dame. So I feel like Miami and Auburn are on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Whereabout. But Clemson beat Auburn at home 13-6. And they made Auburn look terrible.
14-6. Yeah.
It's 14-6? 14-6?
Yeah.
Yeah, 14-6. They made Auburn look terrible. And I think Auburn has improved since then. But I still think that loss counts for that win counts for something for Clemson, so I could see why they're there. But I feel like Miami has the better win of the two. And Clemson had a hard time against FSU this weekend, and FSU has no offense. None. They have a 3-star freshman quarterback starting.
Uncharacteristically bad Florida State team.
Yes. They just have no offense, and the defense is a little banged up. So, that's going to happen for FSU. But I don't know. I thought that Miami deserved to be number 2 after their performance. I guess that gives them a little more fuel to the fire, though. As I feel like that now pushes Miami to win that ACC title game because they have that motivation now. Hey, they don't think we're as good as this team. Let's go out and beat them now. That old Miami swagger. So
yeah, I agree. I was even texting you before. I gave you my top 6, and the only 2 that I had wrong were Clemson and Miami were switched. So yeah, I agree 100%. I want to give you guys to make it still Hoosier related. So interesting fact about IU and the when they were still in contention, basically for the college football playoffs, they were still in the running until week 5.
Yep.
Actually, which when you think about a 12-week system games, that's a lot farther than you might think for this Hoosier team. But we were still in the running while 86 other teams were eliminating. that means we're in the top 45 teams that were on pace to make the playoffs, which I think is just interesting to see how far technically the Hoosiers were still in the running.
Yeah, but then we hit our rough patch, and then we lost to Maryland. So.
Yeah, I'm going to give, before we go into, we're both going to give our predictions of the top 6, but I'm going to give some bold predictions before them. I think this year, I think we finally see 2 teams from the same conference in this year. First, you start with the Pac-12 that's almost basically 100% eliminated this past weekend. Pac-12, there's going to have a lot of things happen for them to get in. So that leaves only 4 conferences left for 4 spots. And I'm going to echo Matt a little earlier. And sadly, I do think the Big Ten is going to be left out. OSU still has a chance to get in, as does Wisconsin. But I think Ohio State is going to win the conference title game, which eliminates Wisconsin. And I think other teams are going to do better than a 2-loss Ohio State team, because we haven't seen a 2-loss team get into the playoffs yet. And I think other teams are going to do enough to get that in, which means there's 4 spots for 3 conferences left. Easily the most curious conference is the SEC with Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn, and what they could do to each other. The Alabama-Auburn game is still left, and then the winner of that game is going to take on Georgia, basically for the SEC title game. So it all changes, honestly, if Auburn's going to win out, which is totally possible. And then obviously we still have, even in these rankings themselves right now, we have still Clemson and Miami, which depending on other people, that could still be, obviously they are 100% playing each other in the ACC title game. Nothing can change that throughout the next couple weeks. They're playing each other, but they could still, depending on what happens elsewhere, they could both get in. So that's one bold prediction. And my other one is we don't see a 2-loss team in the playoffs yet. I still think that's going to hold true. But again, everything changes, because I think the best chance of that 2-loss team to get in is Auburn. So if Auburn beats Alabama and beats Georgia, they're definitely going to get in. But Matt, give us your predictions for the top 6.
The final top 6?
Final top 6, when it's all said and done on that Sunday. Who's going to get in and who's going to be the last 2 on the outside looking in?
All right, so here we go. Mine's a little bit controversial, but here we go. So I got number 1, Clemson. I feel like Clemson beats Miami, and with a 1-loss Clemson, they make it in. Number 2 is Auburn. I think Auburn beats Alabama, and I think because this Alabama team isn't as good, they have no linebackers anymore because they're all injured, which backup linebackers on Alabama are good enough to be starting linebackers at IU, but that's besides the fact, because I think they're not as good enough to tackle a prolific Auburn rushing attack. So I think Auburn gets in at number 2. Number 3 is Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma makes it. I think obviously they're going to win out. And with the first Big 12 title game, I think they're going to get tested, and I still feel like they're going to win. And then finally at 4, this is the toughest one because it can go either way. But I'm actually going to put another 2-loss team in at 4.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to put Ohio State at 4. I think Ohio State makes it from the Big Ten. I think they'll win against Wisconsin and a win against Michigan. I think Michigan beats Wisconsin this weekend, which boosts Michigan. And I think Ohio State beats Michigan, plays Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game. I think an Alabama team loses to Auburn, doesn't make the SEC championship game, and then Auburn wins the SEC championship game again against Georgia. So then Georgia's a 2-loss team. Alabama's a 1-loss team. So Alabama's at 5 looking in. And then I also think that 6 is UCF. I think an undefeated UCF team makes the 6th.
Interesting. So you have Alabama they're very first. They're not going to get into the college football playoffs, and you're going to have them ahead of a 2-loss Ohio State team.
Yes, behind a two-loss Ohio State team, who I think has played people this year. Tell me who Alabama has played this year.
It'll have to be some of the ending games with some of the beating well, you had them losing to Auburn and everything, but it would have to be that, yeah.
Yep, because they played Mississippi State away. Like Georgia's played for 4 better games than Mississippi State away, and that might be Alabama's best game. Like at the beginning of the year, you could have told me that they played and they beat FSU, but look at FSU now. FSU's in shambles, and they barely beat FSU, right? Like FSU is hanging in there for 3.5 quarters, which is more than most teams do against Alabama. And who else did they play? LSU. LSU's not that good.
They're not bad though.
I think they get the SEC hype overratedness. I don't think they even deserve to be in the top 25. They have 3 losses. I don't think they're that good. I don't think their offense is even good enough to I think if you put IU's offense on that LSU team has one more win. That's how bad LSU's offense is, in my eyes. And we have no running game. I also don't like Wisconsin. I don't think Wisconsin's that good. I think Wisconsin gets lucky. And sometimes lucky is better than being good. But I think in this case, their luck has to run out, right? Like lucky bounces. We should have forced 2 fumbles, right, in the game against Wisconsin when they played here. Should have forced 2 fumbles, and somehow the ball ended up bouncing right back to one of their offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, in LSU's defense, they did beat Auburn and Florida, both ranked teams. But
Auburn, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Auburn. I think Stidham got hurt, and it was just a bad game for Auburn. Auburn just had a bad game.
Yeah, I don't remember. But my predictions. So, number 1, I'm still going to roll with the tide. Alabama, I think Bama wins out. Plain and simple. They're the number 1 team. Obviously, if they win out, they're not going to move from that. Number 2, I'm going to have Oklahoma. Oklahoma wins out. I think they have been the superior Big 12 team when it comes down to it all, especially with a good Big 12 conference. Especially, I think they're going to stay and get to number 2. Number 3, Clemson. I think Clemson's going to beat Miami, but this is a key stat here. I think it's going to be a close ACC conference game. And that really matters because my 4th team is Miami, having the ACC being the first conference to have two teams in the college football playoffs. I do think Miami getting that just incredible beatdown victory over Notre Dame gives them that edge, and especially with them not losing twice, which I'll say again, we haven't seen that 2-loss team yet. I think that really helps. Losing in just a very close game to a very good Clemson team, I think that still keeps Miami in contention to stay in the top 4 because number 5, Ohio State, I have they're going to get the edge over Wisconsin that I have at number 6 because I think, like I said earlier, I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin, which takes Wisconsin out. I don't think Ohio State has enough, and I don't think other teams are going to give them enough for Ohio State to give in, which then Alabama beating Auburn and Georgia, I don't think it gives them enough boost to take Miami out of that 4th spot, basically. So that's where I have it at: Bama, Oklahoma, Clemson, Miami as my top 4, with Ohio State and Wisconsin not doing enough to get in. And if it goes how I was predicting, I don't think it's going to be much of a conversation with getting the top 4 in because I think it's a farther drop off than at least recent years. But
yeah,
obviously, this is all. We still got 3 games for most everyone to play left. But that about wraps it up for our 11th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and please feel free to add suggestions in the comment section or contact us through our website. A reminder to follow us on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound, like our Facebook page, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. If you enjoy the show, these are vital to receiving updates about our show, like possibly when I get to reschedule that show at the Assembly Call. But you can also either subscribe on Apple Podcast, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or Stitcher and leave us a review. All the links are in the description below. Visit us at our website at thehoosiersound.wordpress.com to find all of our information regarding our podcast, and stay tuned for updates through social media. As always, send us your questions as the audience, so be sure to comment, chat, or send us a message, and we'll have them on our next show. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, because the more reviews we get, the more our podcasts grow. Tell a friend about us, share our links. It really helps, and it really does keep helping us get that top-notch content for you. But thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.